what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my winter foundation routine. So this video is going to include lots of tips and tricks on how to make sure that your skin is hydrated and looking and feeling its best for the dry winter months. So if you are interested in seeing how to achieve hydrated, smooth skin for the fall and winter months and how to ensure that your foundation is looking its best, then just keep on watching. Okay guys, so let's jump straight into this video. So the very first thing that I did when I woke up this morning was wash my face. My favorite cleanser of all time is the Purity by Philosophy. This stuff is fantastic because it does not foam up. It's like a milky consistency, doesn't dry out my skin whatsoever, which is fantastic because as we are getting into the fall and winter and the air is getting drier and the weather is getting colder, it just likes to suck the life out of our skin. So this is a fantastic cleanser. I use it all year round, but especially in the winter time, it is the very best for my skin. So make sure your skincare routine is really beneficial for your skin because we need to make sure that we're taking care of our skin before we put on the makeup so that the makeup looks really good afterwards. So after I have cleansed using Purity, I'm gonna move on to moisturizer. This is a fantastic moisturizer. I use this all the time. This is the Laneige Water Sleeping Mask. It's actually an overnight mask that you're supposed to put on top of your moisturizer, but I use it for moisturizer all the time just because it does exactly what I need it to do. So I just take about that much. I'll just rub this onto the skin and down the neck as well. As we are approaching the colder months, it's really important that we do take care of our skin and make sure that we hydrate it as much as possible, whether that's with moisturizers, with a moisturizing primer, and you can also take extra steps like making sure you're using a hydrating face mask 1 to 2 times a week, and also make sure that you are exfoliating your skin. I don't recommend exfoliating more than 1 to 2 times a week just because it can be a factor in our skin drying out even more. But it is super important to get rid of any texture that you might have. It's a great tool to smooth out your skin. So after we've moisturized our skin, we're gonna move on to primer. Today I'm gonna be using a hydrating primer. This is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer. However, if you do have any sort of combination skin, you also probably want to use some sort of mattifying primer just in your T-zone area. I find that this, if I put it in my T-zone area, will make me a little bit oily. So just be careful and make sure that you're priming your skin based on what your specific skin needs are. Just gonna take 1 pump and I'm mostly gonna keep it on my cheeks and my forehead and on the outer perimeter of my face. Right here is where I tend to get the most dry. And whatever excess I have on my fingers, once it's mostly soaked in, I will take this in the T-zone. Now, because I have combination skin, I like to go in with a second primer, A, that fills in my pores, and B, that keeps me just a little bit more matte. So I'm gonna use the Benefit Porefessional to help counteract that oiliness. I'm just gonna focus this right in my T-zone, really pressing it into my pores. Okay, so my skin is primed and I'm ready for foundation. Today I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Stick Foundation in the shade Y215. So I'm gonna take this foundation and I'm gonna do 2 stripes on my cheek area, a little bit on my chin, on my forehead, down the bridge of my nose, and just a wee little bit on my eyelids and a wee little bit right here. Now there are 2 ways that I like to blend out a stick foundation. The first way is to use the Morphe M439 foundation brush. This is a great foundation brush. However, for the purpose of today's video and focusing on keeping the skin really dewy and hydrated, I'm going to go in with a damp beauty blender. I really like to wet my beauty blender like really well, and I'll put it under the sink and I'll squeeze it under the tap about 20 to 25 times just to make sure it's really saturated with water, and then I will squeeze it out in a towel or a paper towel just to get out the excess water. But it is very damp, and that is super important when you are blending out your foundation and you want it to be more dewy and hydrated and you want to get some more moisture into the skin. The more damp that your sponge is, the more moisture your skin will soak up. We're just gonna blend out this foundation Alright you guys, so that is the foundation completely blended out onto my skin. As you can see, it looks absolutely beautiful and flawless. However, you can still see a lot of my redness and spots poking through. Now, this is what I want, because a trick to helping your foundation not feel super tight and super dry and super cakey is going in with a lighter coverage foundation such as the Makeup Forever Stick foundation and going in with a more full coverage concealer such as the Tarte Shape Tape to make sure that we're getting coverage in the areas we need it but not building up foundation and concealer and getting extra cakiness on the parts that we don't need it. Now, the concealer is all blended in, however, I still have a few spots over here that I'm going to conceal. Okay, awesome. So there is the foundation and concealer all blended out on my skin. I'm really happy with the way this is looking so far, and I'm going to move on to my next step. I'm going to be using a couple of liquid products today. I'm going to be going in with the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector Liquid in the shade Moonstone, and I'm going to use this to highlight my face today. Now, the reason that I'm using a liquid highlighter instead of a powder highlighter is I want it to look like it's coming from the inside of my skin and radiating outwards rather than sitting on top of my skin. Liquid highlighters tend to look a little bit more natural, and they tend to be melted into the skin just a little bit more because they are a liquid product. If you find that it doesn't give you enough glow, which I mean, this is a Becca product and Becca is known for their highlighting products, so it will, but if you find that it doesn't give you enough oomph, then you can go over top of it with a powder highlighter and that will really, really, really kick up the glow on your highlight. So I'm just gonna squirt like half a pump onto the back of my hand. This is like, just like half a pump like that. I'm actually gonna go in with my fingers. So I'm just gonna mix this around a little bit on the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna tap this on the tops of my cheekbones, down the bridge of my nose, on the Cupid's bow, on my chin, and also on the top of my eyebrow. So I'm just gonna go in with my beauty blender and I'm just gonna blend all of that out. So there you go, guys. You can see just how it's given me sort of a subtle, natural highlighted look. It's a little bit shimmery, but not too much, and it will help really keep our skin looking hydrated. Okay, so my next product that I'm gonna be going in with today is the Glossier Cloud Paint in the shade Puff. I absolutely adore this cream blush. So again, just squirt a tiny little bit on the back of my hand. Again, I'm just gonna go in with my fingers. This is gonna look terrifying at first, but I promise you it will end up looking super, super natural. So I'm honestly just gonna tap a little bit on the apples of my cheeks, just like that. Looks terrifying right now, but I promise you it will look fantastic once it's all blended out. It's going back in with my beauty blender, just tapping that out. I like to bring my blush, especially my cream blush, up here to the back of my cheekbones a little bit as well. The really great thing about this product is that it doesn't dry super quickly, so you can place it on your face just like the Becca highlighter. You can place it on your face and then go in and blend it out, and it's not going to give you a hard time in terms of blending. So as you can see, you guys, my blush is on and it's not looking too over the top. It's just looking like a nice natural flush. I'm really liking how my skin is looking so far, and now is the time to set it with some powder. I'm going to be setting my face using the Laura Mercier Loose Translucent Powder. If you guys have seen my previous makeup video, you know that I absolutely love this powder. However, it can be just a little bit drying. So we're going to use a technique today to help make sure that we are still getting moisture into our skin and not giving our skin the opportunity to feel really dry and cakey. So I'm going to be setting my face today with my damp beauty blender. Now, this technique does two things. One, because the sponge is damp, it really does make sure that the powder melts into the skin and it still brings some hydration into the skin so you're not feeling super dry and cakey, and it also keeps your makeup in place all day. So I've taken about this much on my beauty blender and I'm just going to be pressing this into the skin underneath my eyes. And I'm also gonna go on top of my eyelid and just set that in place as well. Now, I haven't gone in with too much, just a little bit, because I do want to keep my skin nice and dewy and hydrated. Again, just setting it really lightly, not using too much powder, and going in on the top of my eyelid. Now, I'm not gonna set every single place on my face today. I'm just gonna go into the places that need to be set where my oil will usually poke through. So I'm gonna set the chin for sure, and the corners of my mouth and my upper lip. And I'm also gonna go in between my eyebrows and on the top of my forehead. And finally, underneath where I've put my blush, right in there. Now, I'm not gonna let this sit on my skin for too long. I've probably had this under eye bake on for about a minute, and I'm gonna wipe it off right away just because I don't want to have our skin feeling tight. I just want to use this technique for the purpose of making sure that the moisture from the Beauty Blender is pressed into the skin and that it's helping the powders melt into our skin. Now, a great way to ensure that your bake isn't going to totally cake your skin is to use a finishing powder to help kick off your bake. So I'm going to be going in with the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Luminous Light, and this is a fantastic powder. It's not a highlighter, it's just a finishing powder, which means it's going to help change the finish of my skin. So I'm going to go in with my Morphe M438 brush. This is my favorite brush for setting underneath the eyes and for kicking off my bake, and I'm going to just lightly tap into this powder, tap off the excess, and use that to kick off my bake. Now, the reason I'm using this powder as opposed to using nothing at all or going back in with more loose powder to kick off my bake is because this powder gives a really nice lifelike sheen to the skin, and it will help bring back some life and some dimension and some light back to my skin after I've completely made it matte with the baking technique. Now, I have not set here and I haven't set up here, so I'm just gonna lightly go in with this Hourglass powder, and I'm just gonna lightly set using this powder. I don't get oily in these areas. These are actually the areas that I get dry, like I mentioned earlier in the video, and so this is gonna help make sure that our skin is looking hydrated, and I'm not using the really cakey, heavy powder on it because it doesn't need that. That's not where my oil comes through, if that makes sense. And I'm just gonna take this brush with nothing else left on the product and just dust this all over my face to make sure that I'm totally locked in. At this point, I'm gonna go in with my powder bronzer. So this is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Bronzer in the shade Diffused Bronze Light. You guys know that I love this bronzer. It is absolutely fantastic, and it also has a sheen in it, which makes it fantastic for making sure that our skin doesn't look cakey or too dry. It will help us maintain a nice, hydrated, natural, dewy look. So as you guys can see, it's just added a really nice warmth to my skin. My blush is looking a little bit heavy right now, but it is always the first thing to fade. Now I'm gonna be going in with a powder highlight just to amp up the highlight just a wee little bit. And I'm gonna be going in with my favorite highlighting product. This is the Holmes Smashbox Spotlight Palette in the shade Pearl. And I'm gonna be going in with the very lightest shade today. Just hitting all the high points of my face. So at this point, my skin is looking perfect and I'm loving it. And I'm just gonna go and do my brows off camera. All right, you guys, so my brows are done. I used the Anastasia Dip Brow in the shade Taupe, and I also set them with the Anastasia Clear Brow Gel, which is super glue for your brows. Love that stuff so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my eyes off camera, and I will see you guys in a little bit. All right, welcome back, you guys. I have finished my eyes, I've added a lip, and I'm just gonna do one last step to finish off this makeup look and to make sure that our skin is still feeling super hydrated and super smooth, even though we've put a ton of makeup on it. So I'm gonna be spraying my face with the MAC Fix Plus Prep and Prime setting spray. This isn't a setting spray that necessarily extends the life of your makeup. It just actually helps your powders really melt into the skin and help your foundation and your makeup just look really smooth, really seamless, and as natural as possible. So I'm gonna be going in with this spray. So there you go, you guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope that it helped you in some way. If you are struggling with dry skin in the fall and winter months, then I hope that some of my tips today really helped you out. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found this video helpful at all. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I've got a whole lot of new content coming your guys' way very, very soon, so it would mean the world to me if you guys subscribed. And thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day hanging out, chatting with me, and just loving and living in the world of makeup. So with that said, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.